As human beings, we like to think that we have control over ourselves and our actions. It's a way to make our infinitesimal size in the face of the many mysteries of the universe feel more bearable. But sometimes, forces beyond our control cause us to behave in manners of which we never thought ourselves possible. And sometimes those forces are not of our world, but are instead demonic in nature. Hello. I'm Andrew Boyd, and though I have gotten used to my head spinning around and causing me to spew pea soup at random intervals while trapped in this dark dimension which is as vast as space and as timeless as infinity, most people are not, and will go through anything if there's a chance that it will result in their salvation. These are the top 5 terrifying, real exorcisms that let the devil out. Number 5. Amy Stamatis, 2006. Amy Stamatis was a nurse living in Searcy, Arkansas, and working at a hospital in the nearby town of Little Rock. The then 49-year-old was writing reports and suddenly realized that she had completely forgotten her training and could not remember any of the details of how to do her job. Not being able to continue in the field that she had dedicated her life to, she was forced to resign her post. Despite having been a jogger for years, she suddenly found herself unable to engage in that activity either. One by one, the things that brought her joy were suddenly becoming out of reach. Her mental condition worsened with incidents of her hearing voices, removing her clothes in public, suddenly screaming at loved ones, and climbing a 7-story parking ramp with the intention of leaping off of it. Although police officers managed to talk her down from this incident, the voices she was hearing continued to convince her to commit acts of self-harm, culminating in her jumping from the 2nd-story window of her house, resulting in her becoming paralyzed from the waist down. While she was recovering in the hospital, she received a visitor, a Pentecostal evangelist named Cindy Lawson, who claimed to have successfully performed 10 real exorcisms before, having witnessed people's eyes changing colors during the ritual, and even a few cases of levitation. Lawson claimed that God had spoken to her and told her to go to the hospital where she would find Amy, who was unknowingly possessed by demons. Stamatis agreed to let Lawson perform an exorcism, and though she has no memory of how the event went down, family members who were present claimed to see an instant change in Amy after it was complete. Number 4. The infamous Arne Johnson case. 1981. In 1981, a young boy in Brookfield, Connecticut named David Glatzel began having vivid night terrors. As time went on, these nightmares began infiltrating his everyday life, with him seeing haunting figures such as an old man with a white beard, a man with big black eyes and animalistic features and jagged teeth. He then began engaging in bizarre behavior like kicking, biting, seizures, and marks of strangulation appearing out of nowhere. His family reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren, who concluded that David was possessed by a demon. Priests performed 3 exorcisms on David, which supposedly caused him to levitate. In the chaos, the boyfriend of Debbie, David's older sister, Arne Johnson, confronted the demon and told it to leave the child alone and to take him instead. David made a full recovery, but the demon decided to take Arne up on his offer. A few months later, Arne stabbed his landlord to death, and upon apprehension claimed that the devil made him do it. His trial marked the first time in history that someone entered a plea of not guilty for reasons of demonic possession, although this plea was rejected. David was charged with manslaughter and served 5 years of his 20-year sentence, and ended up marrying Debbie Glatzer. Their story was loosely adapted into the 3rd Conjuring film, which follows Ed and Lorraine Warren's involvement with the case. Number 3. Roland Doe, 1949. In 1949, a young boy was mourning the loss of his aunt, who had been a deeply committed spiritualist who had taught the child how to use a Ouija board so that he could converse with spirits. The boy, whose name was changed to Roland Doe in the reports of the incident to preserve his anonymity, soon began hearing strange scratching noises coming from inside his bedroom walls, and having issues with his mattress vigorously shaking on its own. His parents took him to medical professionals who could find nothing wrong with the boy. When the family minister also failed to find anything, the boy's parents enlisted Father E. Albert Hughes, who received permission from the church to perform an exorcism on Roland. This attempt didn't end up working out, as Roland tore a spring out of his mattress during the ritual and slashed the priest across the shoulders. Upon inspection of Roland, his mother discovered that the word Louis had been scratched onto his flesh. She took this as a sign to go to St. Louis, where she met Father Walter H. Halloran and the Reverend William Bowdern. They attempted nightly exorcisms on the boy, during which the child was sent into a rage at the sight of a crucifix, caused the bed to rattle, and made items fly across the room. The clergymen found a large X scratched on Roland, which caused them to conclude that he was possessed by 10 different demons. On the 21st attempt, Roland gained control of himself, claiming that the spirits were gone, and that he had had visions of St. Michael fighting and defeating the devil on his behalf. Roland never suffered any further incidents of demonic interference again, but the story of his ordeal inspired the novel The Exorcist, which was adapted into the classic horror film of the same name. Number 2. Gottliebin Dittus, 1842. Our next entry takes us to the German village of Mottlingen in 1842. Residents of this sleepy village started to notice strange noises and odd goings-on at the home of a 28-year-old woman named Gottliebin Dittus, who believed that her house was being haunted by the ghost of a woman who was always seen carrying a baby in her arms. Dittus began being affected and would drift in and out of a trance-like state, seemingly blacking out for days at a time. The local pastor, Johann Christoph Blumhardt, took it upon himself to free Dittus of her affliction, which had lasted for 2 whole years before he got involved. He claimed that Dittus was possessed by several demons, as well as the spirit of the woman that she had reported seeing, who Blumhardt believed to be the ghost of a local murderous widow who had been known for burying children in a nearby field. The exorcisms he performed on Dittus were horrific, with her reportedly vomiting blood, broken glass, and even nails. The exorcisms continued until one day Dittus appeared to snap out of her possession, declaring that all the demons and spirits had been cast out, and that Jesus was the victor. Number 1. Clara Cele, 1906. In one of the first documented exorcisms in South Africa, a 16-year-old orphan named Clara Germana Cele was staying at the Marion Hill Mission School in Umzinto when she began exhibiting violent behavior. The behavior became more and more extreme until one day the teen began growling, tearing at her clothes, and demanding to speak with the local priest, Father Erasmus Horner. Clara confessed to the priest that she had made a deal with the devil himself, and when the nuns tried to pour holy water on her, her skin began to burn. She would go wild and convulse at the sight of religious iconography, showed immense strength disproportionate to her size, and she began speaking languages that the young teen could not possibly know. When Clara began levitating in front of them, the priest and the nuns got permission to perform an exorcism on her. The exorcism was a wild ordeal, with Clara trying to strangle the priests, levitating at various times, and in perhaps the most horrifying and amazing moment of the ritual, transforming into a serpent who bit one of the nuns. The exorcism lasted for 2 full days and was performed in front of 170 people. By the end of the second day, the demon reportedly caused Clara to levitate one last time before leaving her body, never to return. Clara was demon-free, but unfortunately died 6 years later of heart failure at the age of 22. With that, our journey together has come to a close. The dark forces that run this evil dimension have asked that I remind you to like, comment, and subscribe, lest they be forced to possess you in order to force you to do their bidding. I'm off to try and purge my soul of the demons who have laid claim to it, but perhaps we will meet again soon, and I can regale you with more tales of the macabre and the disturbing, here on Top 5 Scary Videos.